Welcome to Shared Screens Special Edition podcast for House of the Dragon. We got a stacked cast today. We got It's for Chance. We got Nick Evans. Today we are talking about episode 5, We Light the Way. General impressions. Let's just jump into it. Nick, what'd you think?
I loved every second of this episode. That's just the bare facts amongst this. I missed out on the podcast last episode. I was a big fan of last episode. A lot of sex position. But now here we are, and we're sort of getting the meat of Game of Thrones that you love so much again. And man, oh man, if this is just not some of the best writing, some of the best characters, it feels like we're starting to conclude and start to really like push some storylines. And I mean, this ending of this episode also leaves you just wanting so much more. I'm a huge fan of this episode, and I'm super excited to break it down with the both of you.
Yeah. Chance, what'd you think?
You know, you said the episode's name is Light the Way. The way is lit, and let me tell you what, I'm very excited to see where we're going. Kind of seeing the road ahead of us. Very excited. It was another episode where a lot happened, but not action-wise. And I think like taking a step back really and like kind of leveling out the playing field has made the show like really stand out as like, I don't know, it continues to impress. I'm very impressed with the show right now.
Yeah. I liked it a lot. You put it eloquently of I think the beauty of this episode and then just the show and just Thrones and Song of Ice and Fire in general is like the beauty of like the subtlety of everything. Like arguably the biggest like move that was made in this episode was the color dress that Allison wore to the wedding feast. And like obviously in the show in the characters they kind of spell it out for us, but for a lot of people in that room they just are totally unaware of what that means, but to certain people they do know what that means, and that's just I think the brilliance of this show. But yeah, another great episode, and we're starting to see again the pieces are moving. We're starting to see more of a clearer picture of where it's going to go, and just another brilliant episode. I cannot wait for more. I'm hooked every week. I love this show so much that I don't even like check what time it is. Like I never like sometimes I'll watch like with a lot of the Disney Plus Marvel shows, like I'll be like, all right, okay, we're 30 minutes into the 40-minute episode. Okay, so we're getting like this. I'm just locked in, and I don't want to know until it hits me at the end every time.
You never want it to hit you. You never want it to hit you. That's the reason you don't do it. Is because if there's 55 minutes left and you got 7 minutes left, you're pissed off. You don't want this show to end. None of us do. It's so freaking good. Let me know when it's 2 minutes, because I'll try to let this swearing. Oh, Chance, it's so fucking good. This television show, guys, is so amazing, and I just don't ever want it to end. We're gonna break it down. It's really funny right now. I have my mic gated and everything, so hopefully only my audio is coming in. But my roommates right now are watching the episode like behind me, so I'm getting round 2, and I'm trying my best to pace this podcast perfectly, so we're right behind them on spoilers. So I'll be like, "Oh yeah, this happened," and then they'll be like, "Did just happen?" And so that's why I was like, the ending of this episode's amazing. But I'll for just probably another 5 or 6 minutes won't go and jump into what that ending is. But man, oh man, it's gosh, what an episode! What a television show! And the fact that we're 5 episodes in and we only have 5 left, I'm not ready for this to end. I don't want this to end anytime soon. And gosh, just I going through the highlights, it's just so much happened in this episode, and every single bit of it I was on the edge of my seat begging for more, and that's the beauty of this show. I mean, I missed the last episode of the podcast, so I need to rant about how fucking amazing the show is just a little bit more. We only got 5 weeks left for me to do it, so I'm going to do my best to say it every week. And also, the amount of people this week that I've had to try to convince to watch this show, I mean, I can't rant and rave about it enough. And man, just can fast forward me to next week. Just like I don't have to live this entire week. I have a great week ahead of me. I'd be happy if it didn't exist, if I could get back to 8 o'clock on Sunday next week. So sorry, but we
definitely ready for the next episode. I'm ready.
Yeah, like, oh my gosh,
Time jump. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're doing it.
Yeah. So yeah, let's just jump in plot point by plot point, and then we can just set those as like the table dressing, and then if we want to meander or veer away, whatever spurns to our minds, we can jump to that. But yeah, the episode starts off with our introduction finally to Lady Rhea. I think that's how you say her name.
Mm-hmm.
And then she dies like immediately.
It's the most brutal horse WWE move I've ever seen.
Bro, horse wrestling.
Full. Perchance, I have never laughed harder in a kind of funny bit than horse wrestling.
That's exactly what I thought of, was just horse wrestling.
Oh my gosh, the full WWE takedown move was so visceral and disgusting, but also just horse wrestling. I was laughing after, and it felt so bad laughing, but it was so funny to see a no joke, like full fall back, just absolute skull buster of a WWE move. And thank goodness that is acting and fake, because to see that real life would be horrific, because it was pretty horrific. But man, it was there was some levity thinking about horse wrestling during that.
So do we think that Daemon did that on purpose? Like, do we think like he went out looking for her with the intent to kill her, or do you think that just it happened to like be going his way and he saw this opportunity, so he went for it?
Bret, you can jump in on that one first.
Yeah, because so with the like end of the episode, kind of like developer diary or director's commentary, I think they put it so eloquently of again, what makes the Daemon character so interesting is, on one hand, you could totally be like, yeah, he like wanted to get her out of the way, because as we've seen through the last 4 episodes, even though we've talked about how like his power plays and his goals and stuff seem so erratic, he does seem to constantly like in this episode as well, he hints at a marriage with Rhaenyra. And so it does seem intentional that he did try to get rid of her, because she was that roadblock and for him to like maneuver around the succession. But at the same time, like, it totally kind of looked like it was happenstance, in the sense of he was going to confront her, and then she was like jawing at him a little bit, and then he lost his temper, especially at the very end. And I don't know, and they talk about like in the book it's very vague, and so you can read into it so many different ways you want. Like, Damon's not even mentioned at all in the actual text. So but I all that to say, I think he did intend to get her out of the way.
I kind of
what that would look like, because she's like paralyzed right after the horse falls on her, and he was going to walk away. So I don't know what that was going to look like, because I don't know if she could speak at that point, but she could have just, if she could speak, she probably would have just.
She could, because she like goaded him, and that's what got him to turn around.
Yeah.
I kind of, because I was thinking that like he has to know that she's gonna die from these wounds, like if he's willing to leave her like this, because like he can't risk her saying anything. I don't think he's that brazen. I kind of came at it from the sense of like, I know he definitely wanted to get rid of her, but I don't think he was wanting to do it that fast. And then it just happened, and he's like, well, why not now? Like, literally this very moment has presented itself as soon as I've gotten back from King's Landing.
I think Chance nailed it, of just the opportunity arised, but I also do think that he 100% was going to find her for the purpose of taking her off the board. And with that, like, you see later in the episode with him and talk to Rhaenyra, that he does still have that idea behind him that we got presented in the last episode. And now here he is. She needs to make a move to get her away. And when he walks up to her, the second that he like presses her arm doesn't move, he knows she's done. He knows it's over. She's dead one way or another. And if somebody finds her, she's going to be too jacked up to continue on anyways. And so yeah, I think that in the end, once again, I think Daemon does have a soul, and that's why he turned around and killed her, because she was not gonna
No, he didn't. She
be.
goaded him, and he got pissed. So he's like, "All right, bitch, I'm gonna show you." Like he
I think-
didn't
I
care.
think-
Like
I
he
think
was gonna let her suffer to like give her one like,
Well,
fuck you, bitch, like, and walk
it
off.
was the entire exchange was a bunch of FUs, and
Yeah,
I kind of
She was
like,
throwing some punches, bro. Like she did not. I liked her. I was really sad to see her go. Actually,
Yeah, we got her for like literally like a couple minutes, and
Yeah.
she left such a strong impression on us. And again, totally not what Damon was describing her as at all.
Not at all.
Like, yeah, again, and that goes kind of back to emblematic of who Damon is and what kind of character he is. But yeah.
I mean, but the writing was just so good, and that's how they knew we could fall in love with her that fast. And surely enough, that's how they knew that she would leave an impact. And that's just this show impresses me when I watch it. It's almost like I watch it to go and like be blown away. There's so few things that you can go into with the expectation to have your like socks knocked off. And the writing in this first scene allows for moments like that. And that's where my socks were legitimately knocked the hell off. I was like, are you kidding me right now? We just had a scene that was gruesome, but the words were more gruesome than the action. And
I mean,
she was quoting the stuff back to him.
Yeah.
What he said to her. So that was like, and obviously Damon is a very cavalier character, and he literally talks about how he follows his like passions, and so clearly he has said all those things multiple times to many people, and so that's how
it's a well-known thing that he said.
Yeah. Then we cut to King Viserys and Princess Rhaenyra, and a whole host of people traveling to Driftmark. Again, nothing too much of note of this initial scene, although Viserys is a little seasick. Wait, are you guys seasick at all, or no? No.
I was conceived on a boat. Which is known for an Amazon content thing. I am made for water. I've never been seasick. I love to surf. I love rocking boats. I actually sleep brilliantly on boats. I love sleeping on boats. So
yeah.
I had one experience where I took a lot of Dramamine, but after that I was fine.
Nice.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm not seasick on boat. I can sleep on boats. I can do whatever. I don't know if is there a scientific reason on why.
It's just because of the inertia and everything, the constant inertia. Because I will say, being on a lake, which I like grew up doing, and then going out on the ocean are like two very different things with like the way that everything rocks. So anyway, I thought I have watched people just hurl, like the strongest like minded people just like cannot, and they just are yakking over the side. So when I saw the king doing it, I was like, I hope that's not coming out of your nose, bro. That sucks.
Yeah, it's visceral, and it's a lot, and it's right away. And the nice part is going from like when we would have people come and from like Ohio or friends and family, like the difference between people that live in the Midwest and the people that live on the coast, you can tell right away. Because if you lived on the coast most of your life, and Bret, don't you goddamn say it, but if you lived on the coast most of your life, coastal elite, yeah. I lived in Arkansas and
we don't need to get into
Alabama
that. Keep going.
And Ohio more than
I'm just teasing.
You punk. No, you're allowed to tease. Bret says it was such realness. I fucking hate him so much, guys. I hate him almost as much as I hate Vegas. Anyways, but there's that large difference. If I can't throw a couple digs in on Bret during a podcast, then I should just not show up. That's all I'm
just
saying.
teasing. Awesome.
Game of Thrones.
We cut to Otto Hightower. He's leaving the Red Keep, and he gives a final warning to Queen Alicent on what's to come. And again, he's like, look, like I told you already, I'm going to tell you one more time before I head out. The realm's going to want Aegon. You got to do your best to prepare him. Good luck. What did we think about this? Because again, I know a lot of people on the pod and then just on the internet at large think Otto is like very snakish, but he doesn't like he is not the same kind of.
He's not Littlefinger snaky. Like
Yeah,
he
he's
is
not
very
he,
mild snaky. I would say he's just cunning. He's not like a snake, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, and so what did you guys feel about that last plea to Allison? Did you guys feel like that? It did feel earnest. I mean, they hugged at the end. Like, what do you guys think about that?
I think it felt really earnest, and that is why we see her take the trajectory that she does later in the episode, and like backing him is because it was so earnest, and like he comes to her like not necessarily hat in hand, but is kind of like, look, this is the reality of the situation. So like, you can hate me all you want, you can be sorry all you want, but like you have to make a decision right now because shit's about to get really tough. And I think her wearing green is like her coming to realize that. So I do think like it echoed in her an extreme amount for her to do that.
I think the political savviness was kind of put aside a little bit, and he just brought the reality of the situation, which was if if Aegon is not on the throne, it's not everything will be happy and okay. It's you and our family and your kids are going to die.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that ever got spelled out fully for her,
100%.
and she needed to hear it. And it was earnest. They end with hugging. She says, "I wish this wasn't the case." And he says, "Well, you basically made it the case, so that's on you."
Exactly what he said.
Like, yeah, like it's your problem, dude. Like I tried my best, and I mean, she I can't wait to talk about her conversation with Sir Kristen, because man, just the egg on her face when she realizes what she did, because she knows she's the one that messed up. I also think that that's why she lets him just leave, but like, man, she's at fault. And I think Otto in this moment, for the first time, you're right. It's not a snake move. It's not Littlefinger snaky. It's honestly probably the best we've seen from him and the most endearing side we've seen of him. And I mean, I thought that he was going to be a sword compared to just leave on a horse. And so I'm excited to see where his story leads, especially now knowing where this episode ends up. And also with Alicent balling out during this episode. Alicent, best character in the show by far.
I did want to mention that we were right in our guess last week of who would take up the hand spot.
Oh yeah,
Like
it just felt
yeah,
the natural move.
100%. So I do want to get into him going to talk to the Valerians about the plea, because like they notice something's up immediately with like how sick he is, and I wonder if that's why, like if that inferred their decision, if maybe that's why he was a little bit more headstrong in those debates for the marriage, is because like he knows it's like go time for him because he doesn't have long left. Just thoughts about that.
Yeah, that's exactly my read on it. Okay. Where it was like when this episode starts to persist, I'm like, oh shit, like
he's coughing, like she like tries to like hold his hand and he like winces it away and stuff. Like he's really
because you
not
can
strong.
She feels the decay that has been on his body, and it's so well done of that conversation, once again talking about the political savvy and the actual politics of what is happening in the show, to see him lay it on the line and be like, this is a mutually beneficial deal. No, I'm a football guy. I love fantasy football. It felt like they were doing a fantasy football trade where they're like, this is mutually beneficial for both of us. It's going to work out well. But in the end, it keeps a Targaryen on the throne. And for him, he was all about that. And then for them, they were just like, well, we also get to put our name basically like a little asterisk on the side of winning the Iron Throne.
He's the only one, like they only have one son, right? Like they have one son and one daughter. So their name needs to persist as well, which is why I thought he was fighting for it so hard, as he's like, okay, so either you like your line ends or my line ends. And so I thought that was like a good common ground that they actually came to, that like, okay, you get more, but I get the important. Anyway, I just thought that was like beautiful Game of Thrones chess going on. And like, go ahead, Bret.
Oh, it just highlights the just absurdity of all this, where Viserys is like, yeah, like there'll be Valerians until, a daughter or son is in line, and then magically change your name and you're good, you're a target. Like, because it's all about fighting over these names, and he's literally like, we'll just change the name.
But also, I love that here we're in a world where he just lays it out, and there was a big, great moment of, it doesn't matter if it's a boy or girl first. Whoever's first that's it. And so
He's
the
really
precedent,
sticking to his guns on like it being his daughter, and it's a different King's Landing. It's a different realm now.
yeah,
Which I feel like it's not gonna end like that.
No, no. Well,
Because
so
not only is he saying Rhaenyra is gonna be like the heir, but he's like, oh, and then from then on, it's boy or girl, whoever. Like,
yeah,
it's
he's
like,
being real
man.
optimistic about how that like takeover of power is going to be.
but it's also huge that now the Valerians are sort of on board, because that gives you what the conversation that happens between Corlys and the Queen that never was is brilliant. Where he's like, "All right, let's talk shop about this. Let's get real about what our movie is going to be after this movie is made." And they both seem on board. They're both like, we are going to be able to rule well now that we have, one, we're connected with the Iron Throne, and two, now we're actually in this thing now, because they weren't for years at this point, since the start of the show. And so they're back in the game a little bit, and it seems like they're happy to be back in the game. Was that y'all's read?
It's too good of a chance to pass up.
100%.
They know the realities that Otto has talked about, that Damon's talked about, but they still are like, hey, if this works out and we literally tie our bloodline into the ruling like lineage, like this is gonna impact our family.
This is a W
for
for
generation.
us.
Yep.
Yeah.
So get like kind of hopping into the next scene. Sorry, I just like I have to tie something in. So do you think that like Viserys and Rhaenyra knew that, what's his name, L'Oreal, the oldest son, the one that Rhaenyra is married? What's his name? Prince what?
Laenor.
Do you think they knew that he was gay? Like when
Rhaenys knew, and then I think Corlys was like, I think he knew, but he like, I mean, he literally is like, oh, he'll change, or like.
I want to know how like they knew though, like unless if it was like kind of a secret amongst the higher ups.
I would assume that like they knew based off of the fact of like you're around these people, you grow up with them, and
I gotcha.
If he's just like, hey, I'm not really like, they're teasing him about girls, it's like, I'm not even about that. Like, there's stupid stuff that you can get from
it. Just is
growing
like
up with the person.
The perfect situation for like literally everybody involved, where they get to do what they want and like they come to that agreement like right off the bat. Like it just is too good to be true, and I'm waiting for this fucking shoe to drop. And I feel like stuff that happens later in the episode is that shoe.
Which I didn't expect there to be a quote unquote shoe to drop on the on Laenor's side, especially with just the fact of like, hey, there's a whole other person in this equation, which is Cole and everything. And you go and have this great conversation where I'm like, dude, this dude is freaking winning. Like, he is giving up nothing and he is getting everything, and that is awesome. And she makes it clear, she's like, cool, we gotta like probably have a couple of kids, we'll figure that out but then after that, like, let's do what we want to do. I'm like, this dude just got the fattest W like we've ever seen.
The bag, bro.
Because Joffrey, when it's Joffrey and Laenor by the beach, and he's like, bro, like, this is like huge for you, for us, like for everybody involved. Like,
I can be your protector. I can be around you. Like, it's
he is okay with being the side piece and being under, like,
but I also think it's because of like their sexual orientation and that not being accepted. They like, as fucked up as it is, like to say like this is the best possible outcome for them. Whereas like for Sir Cole, like that is not, like, he is used to being able to like be married and all that shit, and so like being second fiddle, like it's just so interesting how the two sides take it.
Yeah, this episode is just worst after worst after worst case scenario for Sir Criston Cole, and then on the other side, it's best after best after best, and
until it's the worst for that.
Until you throw some alcohol in there, you start trading secrets over a big old feast. Well, you know what's gonna happen? Apparently, one of the most brutal freaking deaths I've seen on the big screen, and like in general, just on my TV. Jeez Louise, like sickening. They kept cutting to it, and then the blood at the end of the episode that they showed, I'm like, holy
with the rats eating
shit.
Anyway,
Yeah,
sorry.
just nasty. Oh my gosh, poor dude, poor dude. Once again, I'm so thankful that I am able to be like, this is fiction, because the second that I'm like that happened, I'm like sick to my stomach. But then I get past that real fast. I'm like, this is fucking awesome, and everything that happens in this episode is fucking awesome. So
yeah, yeah. So jumping back, we get to the they're still on the boat sailing to Driftmark, and Kristen Cole is like, "Yo, Rhaenyra, let's just dip. We can go to Essos, Ashai, whatever. Get married, have a nice little, studio apartment. You know, we can get really into drip coffee,
Yeah.
French press. Like, let's do it. Modest life, but we'll be happy." And obviously that, in an ideal world, that probably could have played out. But it was interesting to see Rhaenyra like buy into the whole like duty aspect of her lot, like, because the last couple of episodes you complained about having to fulfill these obligations. Here she's kind of like bought in. Now, do we think she's bought in because everybody's telling her that that's what she has to do, so she's just like, I guess? Or is she that committed to taking power? Like what do you guys
I
think?
don't think it's power. I think it's the freedom aspect that we just were sort of talking about.
She was able to do it her way, right? Like, she is doing this, but she's already came to an agreement. Like, her and her new partner see each other as equals, so they're both allowed to do the things that typically are only reserved for men. And she's not going to say anything about his exploits, and so like she can have this life with Sir Criston. She can have her cake and eat it too. And so I think him coming to her in that moment was like, well, fuck, I've already done all of this work to make sure that I can like have both sides, and now like you want me to be wholly dedicated to you, and I can't say no to this like huge responsibility that like I will be infamous for. Like, she spells it out, and she 100% would have been like known throughout the whole realm as like, I don't know, the coward or whatever for taking off.
And also, she gets like, let's just say she understands by saying no here, and he then would go and be like, okay, well, then we're done with this. We're not just going to screw around. She still is able to screw around. Like, she's still able to have future exploits, and that's totally fine with her, and it's totally fine. And so she goes and she's like, might as well. Like, I still, even losing you, I still come out on top in this situation because I got legitimately everything I could ever want. I have my dad's approval at this point. I feel like I'm in a good relationship. I'm going to be in marriage with someone that I'm good with. We're solid. And so of course she's just very okay and down because she got everything she wanted, and you feel bad for Kristen Cole, but like Bret nailed it with the drip coffee line. I'm like, oh dude, this guy is trying so hard to be like,
you're oranges.
Yeah, like it's ideal, it's adorable, but it just can't happen. And I kind of feel like this scene though, in my eyes, I'm like, dude, what did you expect? I know this sounds dumb, but like the second that those two got together, I was like, oh, cool. This is a secret deal. There is no way that this cannot be secret. And the way she was saying it was like, we're good to continue to screw around. We're fine. Like,
I think it was like the honor part. Like, he needed like to be able to like restore his honor. That was the next step he needed to take in order to like cleanse his white robe again, because like he had sullied it by like breaking his law of chastity. So like, because he's a man of honor, he's a man of service and all of that shit. So I thought like, because I was kind of in the same boat of like, oh, you're just like a seventh grader who's just fell in love for the first time. But then I thought about it a little more after he says that stuff to the queen, Alicent, about like how he like had like all of those feelings and shit. And I was like, that's why he's doing all this.
I think because I just think of, I compare him to Jaime in the sense of he is a low-born person. And so when he gets this very prestigious role, he takes it super seriously because he knows like what it's like to not be in that life. Whereas Jaime grew up the son, the heir to, the richest, kingdom.
Yeah.
So, yeah, at that time. And so when he goes to the Kingsguard, he obviously sleeps around with Cersei, and he does not hold that title, very dear. So I just thought that was interesting, the comparison of like someone who knows what it means to come from nothing versus someone who was born into that like their whole life.
And they almost took the oath.
But
as
I'm like, if you're gonna hold on to that, and I know it's honor, but like, if you're gonna hold on to what you worked your entire life for, shut your mouth. Like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to start to talk about the scene with Allison and him later. But I was like, bro, until she says you did it, shut your mouth. And I was like, we all knew it was coming and everything, but I was like, are you kidding me? Until she says the word shut your mouth. And in this moment, I'm like, until she says basically, like, we're done, and we're like, I understand he wanted to regain his honor. So after that wasn't an option. And where he ends up at the end of this episode, the lengths he's going to, because he's like, I can't do this anymore. Why did you do it in the first place? And that's like, once again, I'm nitpicking the show because I understand why he did it in the first place. It was the now, it was in the moment, and it's something he wanted.
Well, we talked about it in that episode. Like, that's like the heir to the throne, and if she's like, drop your pants, like, you either say no, and she could potentially be like, all right, guards, this guy tried to rape me, or go with it, and then you're in that mess anyways. Like,
not only like saying no and having her threaten that, but also like the feelings that she would have. Like, he can say no, like, I'm duty bound, but she's still going to take it personally, and like that's going to strike into their relationship. Like, and he doesn't want to hurt her. He's her sworn protector. So like, yeah. I like, weirdly enough, I feel like I really understand where he was coming from, because like he's carrying this guilt, and not only he's carrying it, he loves Rhaenyra. And so he's seeing her marry somebody else. And so like when he's like goes to the queen and confesses, and he's like, just kill me. Like, I really kind of got where he was coming from, because he's been like saddled with this guilt. He's heartbroken. Like he sacrificed everything, and now it's nothing. And so like, anyway. And then when he like goes to kill him, I didn't, anyway, we can get to that later.
Yeah. So we'll get into that scene, but first, I wanted to bring this up because this guy's been popping up, and he's very skeevy.
He's a fucking worm tongue, or whatever the fucking cuck's name. Like, he is the worst.
This guy, Larys Strong, bro. He somehow knows every secret about everybody, and he's so passive aggressive with how he's drip feeding the information to everybody. He's not just outright saying claims and things like that. He's beating around the bush. Like,
I had said he was fucking listening to everybody when he was at that hunting.
You did.
On that episode. I said he was listening, and I was fucking right, dude. I knew, I could see the snake in him as he was just playing dumb, playing like he was, the disabled one that was no good, and he's just gathering all this information. We thought Otto was Littlefinger. Nah, it's this bitch. This bitch is Littlefinger.
Here's my thing, though. As much as like you're supposed to dislike what is happening, the dude is playing the fucking game
100%
so well.
100%.
So well. Because he will never be able to wield a sword. He will never be able to cut down someone. And so what is he going to do? He's going to go in on the inside like a little snake, like a little weasel, and freaking perfectly drip feed like the coffee that Sir Criston is going to have with Rhaenyra in their condo. Perfectly drip feed information when the time is right. And honestly, like, to keep their house, the house strong, obviously they're in a decent position right now. To keep them in a solid spot, he needs to go and gain favor. He needs to go and be the right-hand man at certain points, or the two whoever will hear him. And also, I love so much, he says nothing at all incriminating. Nothing during that conversation will lead back to him getting screwed over. He just goes and says, hey, this is what I heard.
I thought she was sick. I saw a tea.
Yeah, like, I just want to make sure she's all good.
He knows what's up. Dude, I didn't even think about like the I thought he was just playing coy the whole time, but you're totally, I didn't even think about that.
He didn't want to say a single word that would make him look like he was doing anything bad, even though he could. They both know what's happening right now. They both understand the words that are being exchanged are very coy, very intentional. But during that, the man won the conversation, and they were just talking about flipping tea, baby. Like, are you kidding me? It's so smart, so brilliant. But yeah, he said nothing in that conversation that was incriminating, and I think that that is so important because he understands how to talk so well. There is not a single thing that Allison could leave that conversation with that isn't this guy has my back and said only gave me good information without giving it showing his hand at all. He didn't say anything that would go and screw him over. It only helped her. And he says, he's like, hey, do you need an ally? And she's like, no, I'm good. Like, I got all these allies. Obviously, she's like, sure, what's one more? But he then gives her the perfect amount of information, the perfect wording of that information, and it results in a amazing, well thought out discussion that totally it leads into the next conversation about Sir Criston and Alicent in their room. But yeah, what an unbelievable Game of Thrones scene. That is a Game of Thrones classic right there of that type of conversation just between two characters that haven't talked, and let's see what they got. So Brett, what do you think?
My question is, what is this guy's goal? Because I'm trying to think, and I'm like, he's the second son, third son to the Hand of the King. Like, what's his goal? I can't even begin to think of where to start.
I think he's trying to like curry favor with people to elevate his position because he's not going to get anything given to him like his brother will. Like, his brother is the first son of the Hand of the King at this point. He's the second son of the Hand of the King. He's not getting shit. So he's trying to curry as much favor with people and kind of play his own chess game to get his standing in this world. That's kind of where I was taking it from, because I also had that question of like, you don't have a reason to be doing this. Like, what do you gain? Like, what do you gain? And that's like the most obvious commodity that he gets.
Yeah. I think the stupid phrase that knowledge is power is never truer here. And he understands that any secret that he can trade to get forward, and whatever that means for him, I don't even think that that's important as right now. It's just moving forward, upping your standing, upping your ranking. So when it's time to cash in, whatever it is, it can happen, whether it be a seat somewhere, whether it be money, whether it be whatever. He's going to be able to at some point be like, hey, remember that time? Like that. I know that's.
And I think subconsciously she's even going to be looking out for him, like, because he like kind of looked out for her and gave her a little bit more of the information she didn't have.
All he has to offer is secrets. And so he's realizing the best way to go about it is offer those secrets. And he's doing all right.
Yeah. Again, hats off to Emily Carey, who plays Alicent. Like, because that character is so reserved, she can't be like flamboyant and verbose with her mannerisms and emotions. But you like see throughout this episode when she learns like different parts of the truth and how like her face slightly changes. Like, amazing, great job by her.
One quick thing I do want to say, like, despite the way that being in royalty in the Game of Thrones universe like corrupts people, she still seems to like be pure of heart, which I really respect about her. That's
it shows with her dad. She wants to be friends with Rhaenyra. She's doing everything she can to defend her, and also she's like dealing with this king that is kind of an idiot at times, but still cares for him, still loves him the way that like she knows that marriage is in this world. And I mean, she's done everything right and she's the only one right now where her hands aren't just freaking dirty, and it makes it that much more badass when she walks into the feast, because you're just like, all right, we know that this person is coming in with vengeance, and she's not going to be able to do it with a sword. She's going to do it with her political savviness, with her house standing, the fact that she's the queen. And goddamn, do I not love this show, because it has moments like that that get set up for multiple episodes where the payoff is so good. And it's not a payoff with a big battle. It's a payoff with someone walking into a room and garnering every eye in the castle to go and look at her, but also every eye of the viewer to be like, this is fucking awesome. And it is. Sorry to jump ahead a little bit, but man,
no.
she's so good. She's so good in the show.
Oh yeah. Then we get Queen Alicent learns the truth from Lair Strong. and Queen Alicent confronts and calls Sir Criston Cole to her chambers, and then they're playing a little mind games here, and then Criston Cole just flat out was like, "Yeah, it's like I know where you're going, and it's true." Nick, you already talked about this. I'm with you. Why the hell did he admit this? I know, Chance, you were like, it's burning in his soul, but bro, he's like, look, I know you're gonna geld me. I know you're gonna torture me. Just kill me. It's like, bro, it's that stain not.
So I didn't think that she knew about him and her. I thought it was.
No, she didn't. She was asking solely about
Daemon. And so
yeah.
when he admits to it, I think that's like, she's like, what the fuck did you, what?
No, she just knows now that Rhaenyra's slept around. Like, it's not necessarily who, but what. And in her eyes, I think that also she can realize in her mind, be like, oh yeah, she probably also slept with Daemon, because that means she did sleep with someone. Everyone is lying to her. That's not her dad. Her dad did not get bad information at this point, because you know that she slept with someone. For like,
do we think that she slept with him more than once? I know this episode isn't as big of a time jump. It's only one time.
I agree with Chance there. I think it was one time.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they were built different back then. I mean, like, you just had to look at a girl and she'd get pregnant. So, like, having sex, that was like a rare occasion back then. Just
yeah. No, I think
the common folk. Yeah.
Gotcha. So do we want to go more into of why Criston Cole confessed, or do you feel like we already covered that?
I think we covered that, but I think, and we already touched on this a little bit, but Allison freaking nails this scene so well with the facial expressions and with the nuance of holy crap, game on. This is where I think we will look back on in a couple episodes and realize this is now where the show was always told to be, it's House Hightower versus House Targaryen, and this is the moment, it feels like, where she realizes, oh shit, I messed up. Let's go. Rhaenyra lied to me. Viserys is covering up and not telling me the truth. He just screwed over my dad. Let's go. Let's lock it in. And it allows for this wedding feast is just so damn good. And so we've got a couple more scenes till we get there. But man, it's unbelievable. Chance, did you want to touch on anything? I sort of cut you off there.
No, you're good. I had already kind of given my feelings about this scene.
Gotcha. And so we cut next to King Viserys getting some medical treatment. Again, that one lower maester's like, hey, I have this like potion, whatever, poultice or whatever, that might work. And the old Grand Maester's like, nah, dude, let's leech this guy. He loves it.
Yeah.
Again, I'm like, I just remember thinking about, like, in real world history, like George Washington, when he died, he was super sick, and all the doctors were like, let's leech him, and then he dies. And I'm like,
let's leech. No. That was their go-to back in the days, just leech him.
Oh my gosh.
I also, part of me that saw a little bit of symbolism behind this of he's not the king that lives forever. That's not his job. His job is to feel good in the moment and be in the moment and then move on. And so when they were like, oh, it's just going to make him feel good, he's used to this, it sort of reminded me of the, for lack of a better word, the bum that he's been during this show of he hasn't done anything amazing. He hasn't done anything horrific. He's sort of just a bum. He's sort of just hanging out. And when they're just like, just leech him, I'm like, that's sort of what I see Viserys as. Although he made one power move of naming his daughter as queen, he's just like, let's just see what happens. I'm gonna get drunk. I'm gonna party. I'm gonna have sex, whatever. But it just was a moment of, yeah, of course he's not gonna live forever. Of course we're coming to the end of him, because that's the type of king he is. And then we get into this conversation, Bret, that you hop in on.
Yeah. So in the books, because obviously the books go a little more into what goes on here, and the show expands and does some creative choices with the overall story. But King Viserys was known for being the tourney king, the hunt, king, doing all these extravagant celebrations and not actually, obviously waging war is not good, but not, conquesting anything or, doing anything meaningful, politically. That was kind of what his overall reign is known for. But I thought the conversation here was very poignant, especially related to his character, because he's just not feeling so hot right now. And then he talks about, like earlier in previous episodes, he's obsessed with prophecy, and then here we find out he's obsessed with like his legacy as king. He's like, well, I'd be remembered as a good king. And then when he's talking about like, if I would have been tested via, conquest or a war or battles, like would I have risen to the challenge? And then I just thought it was so beautiful because it's super emblematic of who this guy is he's like, it's best not to know. Like I'm glad I didn't have to find out what kind of man I was, because I was just able to rule peacefully. And obviously peace is great, but I think there is a point to like he never was really tested throughout his reign so far. And what did you guys think about a couple of those quotes during this scene? Because I thought it was super powerful.
I thought his test was not one of like conquest, but more of like a moral thing that goes from like his cousin was wronged by not inheriting the throne, and now his conquest, if you will, is like passing it on to a woman instead, and like bucking that trend of only a man can rule. Because like by the time Cersei takes over, like in Game of Thrones, it's not that weird that like there's a queen, and it had to start somewhere. So like while it is true and he's kind of a coward and all that other stuff, like I thought his words from his hand were like eloquent and like very true of like the people who do get tested, like a lot of them wish that they hadn't. So like the grass is always greener, like you could have been tested but then you wouldn't have wanted to. I thought it was a really good Game of Thrones scene where like there's a lot of like really introspective dialogue being had.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved the scene, and it reminded me of like the Whiplash, like it's like I want to be great sort of deal, and you guys being D3 quarterbacks won't even matter, like you won't matter in the future. But and what Chance said is really freaking true behind this, of like it really the outlook of positivity, you were so much more on the positive end than the shit end of like you didn't do anything that like destroyed us, and you didn't screw over your family line, and you tried your best to have kids, and you did so successfully with like you have 2 heirs, and like you were a positive thing. But sure, you didn't do anything great here. It's good to just be neutral. And like I'm thinking about it, like if I was in King's Landing and my guy was throwing some crazy parties every now and then and throwing some sick ass tournaments, I'd be like, sure, we're not getting anything big done, but we're hanging out. We're having a good time.
You become the good old days. Like in the subsequent like kingdoms, when everything turns to the shit, it's like, oh, remember when Rhaenyra was king and like everything was popping, like nobody was starving to death and shit. There's no songs made about you, but like it is like also like infamy over like genuine like well-being of people, right? Like because but anyway,
it's like a real world comparison of like if like if you're your representative or whatever is in the news all the time, it's usually because they're not doing so hot, right? So if you don't hear about them, that means they're doing a good job and they're keeping it going. Yeah. But yeah, that's so funny that he's obsessed with like these legacies and songs of grand tales, hundreds of years. He even says 500 years, which I think Aegon he conquered the Seven Kingdoms like what 200 years ago at that point or something like that. So this is like way beyond even that. Like it's just so fascinating that his eyes are like on the horizon of wanting to be this grand king when he doesn't realize like, hey, like nothing has gone wrong for the 15 years he's ruled, right? Like that's pretty good. Like all the when it arguably being a king in peacetime is arguably more arduous than being a king or a ruler when there's a conflict, because that's easy to deal with versus
sorry, but my biggest thing was I think Chance nailed it, of like his conquest was to get a queen on the throne, and it's like he did so, but once again,
he hasn't done it even yet.
Like he's not setting her up in the best way possible at the end of the day. He's trying, and it looks like he made some very good moves towards that, especially in this episode. But like he's not having. He's like all the house is bent the knee. We all know how this story's gonna end up, where there's gonna be people being like, "Screw that, let's get your bro on this throne." And so here we are. He could have done, I think, a little bit better
I
of
think it's not even the
doing
brother
that.
anymore. I think it's the kids, like his 3
Yeah,
sons now, or
yes,
however many sons he
yes.
has.
Sorry, her her brothers, not his brother.
I got you.
Like now it's moving on. But yeah, it like he once again it perfectly aligns with what we were just talking about. Of like he did poorly, he did like deserving of songs. He's definitely on this side of like doing his conquest, but he could have set her up a little bit better. But also he could have set her up way worse, and she could Aegon or his son could be on the throne right now, and he could totally just have lost and been awful. So, good job, King Paris. We'll talk about the end of this episode in a moment. But Bret, where are we heading next in this episode?
So yeah, now we're heading to the big feast, baby. Before we get into it, I just want to talk about like the cinematography, the set design, the costume design. This felt like one of the most extravagant like feast scenes in Game of Thrones history, let alone like any fantasy storytelling, pretty much anything on TV or movies ever. Like this, it looked awesome. I just gotta say that. So
My bar
yeah,
is always like a Lord of the Rings scene, or that one scene where like Ciri is conceived in The Witcher, and it was like in the middle. It was like so, because like the Ciri scene is like not the most decadent, but it's a good scene. And then you have stuff in like the Lord of the Rings that is like super fleshed out and you, like really in the real, and it just felt more along the lines of like it just was anyway. I totally agree. Like sometimes you can feel the set design, but this time like you could sense the budget, and you felt so immersed.
The tapestries in the background, even like
the thing that was above, like the royalty, I was in love with that feather thing. Whatever the fuck it was, I thought that was the dopest looking shit.
You know,
I was looking back, yeah, after this, like after we finish off this podcast, I make sure to rewatch each episode just as we're doing this and everything, and I cannot wait to rewatch this thing. Like especially the moment that Damon walks in and they have to put the chair down, the weight of that chair and the way it was designed, I was like, even that's awesome. Like the smallest details, but like when the chair like thudded in, I was like,
saw
oh
like
my gosh,
really nice handmade chair that they just pulled out, and it's like, oh my god, like damn.
Like I was like, just break out the folding chair and like just put that down. Like there's no need to break out the budget for this. No one wants Damon to be here. Come on, they don't need to go that nice for him. But yeah, but you definitely sense the budget. You definitely sense the beauty, and they made that room look as decadent as possible. It was awesome.
Yeah. So we get some of the introduction of some of the higher lords of the Seven Kingdoms. We first get Jason Lannister again, douchey as ever, making snide little comments, like super subtle but not really, making cracks at women, like.
And then she like popped back at him, which was, oh yeah, he'll be the perfect husband. And you just see like Jason like, you fucking bitch, like, and he walks off.
It's like, bro, you already lost. Take the L.
Get out of here. You could have been like the gentleman that was like, oh, I'm so glad you found love. And then
he could have.
Go ahead.
He could have been a suitor, like House Lannister. Even though at that point they're not as prestigious as they are in the Game of Thrones era, they're still one of the richest houses. They're still a house that goes back to the very beginning of the First Men and beyond. But he just misplayed it so hard in the previous episodes but he just doesn't realize that or doesn't want to accept it.
Well,
and
he's such a patriarchal douche that he doesn't realize, oh dude, this king, he's not long for the world. I should be kissing freaking Rhaenyra's ass at this point. Like I'm not he played it so poorly where everything was directed towards the king. Rhaenyra's over there, she's not important. It's all about the king, it's all about the dude. And then when she pops in and absolutely spikes his ass, I'm just like, yeah, you deserve this. You're being a dick, dude. And as lovely as ever, the Lannisters being assholes. So
yeah. And then we get the grand entrance of House Valerian. We get a couple other houses, but the grand entrance of House Valerian, and obviously, they're the half of this match. But I don't know. Again, knowing what we know of Corlys, and continue that into this, like it felt a little more bombastic than it needed to be. like this felt like that felt like more.
Felt like-
obviously the Targaryens are already there, but like this was like now the party started. Now it's like okay, like Rhaenyra's the heir here, not Laenor. Yeah.
I also thought that there was before we got to House Valerian, when the High Towers walk in, there's a little bit of a sense of like, we're here because we have to be, but one, we get the revelation, like, I didn't think this would be the case, but Otto's not there. He's out. You're not stepping foot back in this kingdom, it looks like, anytime soon. And then they're all just like, we're here because the queen's here, because you just totally screwed over Otto Hightower, which is our namesake. So like it's a little bit of tension building, and I think that it's brilliant. I think that Chance, hop in.
Just you get to see like where all the houses are standing and like how they like their favor with the Targaryens at this point, and I think it's like a really good like nice check-in with everybody, like trying to see, I don't know, because you're always wondering. Yeah, you get a lot of big picture stuff like condensed down in this one scene. I really liked it.
Yeah. Real quick, what do we think about? And this is jumping out a little bit when Hobart Hightower, who is the actual head of that house, is like, hey, House Hightower stands with you, like, your grace. Like, that's like, hey, if things go down, like, our whole house is backing you or whoever like you're involved with.
I think it was like a direct like, we will back your heir over Rhaenyra's heir for the throne. I think like with how in tune Otto was in that moment, I think he went back and like spilled the tea with the boys and the girls and was like, yo, this is what's going on. When you go, I need you to like really. And they were like, yeah, bro, we got your daughter. Like, we ain't fucking with this shit. Her kid's going to be king. Like, I think that's where they were coming from.
Yeah, and I think it was a moment of, we understand that this scene holds weight, and she basically is on her own. Allison is totally getting screwed over in this scene. And so there's a little bit of comfort, but a whole lot of power behind the sentence of, we stand with you. Like, not only do we want your son to be king, but also we are ready to ride to war if it needs to go there. And like her showing up in green, and I think it was a little bit of a symbol of just like to rally the troops. Hey, I'm on an island right now. I am screwed. Let's see who's going to be down with me. And when she gets the old thumbs up, I think that this episode just kicks into high gear. It's awesome.
I kind of was having some thoughts about Alicent, and like at the beginning of this episode, she, her father is leaving the castle, and she's always had him to kind of like have her back and things, and so now she's on her own, and it's kind of like, when a fledgling bird has to leave the nest that first time, and it's either they're going to fly or they're going to fail, and I think that this was that episode for her. Is she didn't have any backing, she had to do it by herself, and she made an ally with the one new Littlefinger guy, and then also like she was able to like make it to this position where like, all right, I have allies. They're not as visible as everybody else is, but I have like powerful people backing me. So as long as I can like stand as a high tower in this kingdom by myself, then I'll be good to go. And it just was very transformative for her, of like, you could see her aging and like maturing in a different way, which is so interesting because she's been so mature throughout this whole series. But I don't know.
Well,
I'm starting to like really identify with Nick about this fucking. She's the best character in this show. Like she really is.
Yeah, the moment that she comes to with Green, like I said, the moment going back to when it's her and Sir Criston Cole talking, and she realizes she just sold out her dad, basically, like just totally screwed him over. Yeah, and then two, realized Rhaenyra lied to her, so she has no friends on the Targaryen side. She's like, she understands, like, my husband also lied to me, like, because she's the husband straight from the king sent what the tea was sent, so she knows the king knows about this. She has no friends, and what does she do? She, like you said, it's either fly or a flutter. Like, she freaking soars, dude, and she walks in the most badass way, which is Game of Thrones way. It's not like guns ablazing. It's not you're dressed in gold. No, you're dressed in green. You're dressed in this thing that means we're going to freaking war. And when she sits down, I love how she kisses her husband on the cheek, and it's just, all right, niceties are off. It's game time. It's go time. Let's make this very clear. We're not good.
She's just like picture perfect of like what a queen needs to be, but it's all in the subtext of like how she normally treats these people. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Even the developer commentary at the end was like, "This is the first time we see her." I can't remember how they put it, but like, she obviously she's been the queen for a number of years, but this is the first time she is like exuding that aura of like regalness.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that makes any sense,
Yeah.
but like she walks in, she commands the attention of everybody in that room. They all stand up in attention. She's wearing the green dress, which means a call to arms for House Hightower.
Did either of you know that was a thing until this episode? Because I had no idea.
Well,
I had
so
no idea.
They said it, which like.
So I was just happy
me,
that they said it. That was the only thing. Sorry,
I'm happy that they said it, but it also was the thing of like, we are going to make this as clear as possible. Like, there is no subtlety to this. We are telling you, we are not showing you because we want you to understand this moment. And it, like, for me, like, as Chance said, I'm happy that they just outright said it instead of being like, oh, this is a book thing or whatever. No, we want to understand that so we understand how badass this moment is. And so they told us to allow the showing of her dominating this room by just walking in to be as badass as it was. So I was totally fine with the tell not show moment because then the rest of it is just so badass.
I thought they got around it in a smart as possible way where it's what's the guy's name? Sir Larys?
Yeah,
because it's the firstborn of the hand, right? That says it.
Yeah. Lord Larys Strong, and he tells the oldest son Howin, Bonebreaker Strong. That's his name, Bonebreaker, right? I think.
Yeah.
And so he's like whispering it, so it's not a common. Obviously, this guy's a very intelligent, observant guy, as he's said so himself. But in the way he says it, and because we know he's a smart guy, like most of the other people don't know. Obviously, a lot of people in that room probably know that's their house colors, but that they don't know what that means in that situation. And so I felt like they were able to tell us, hey, this is like a very poignant, like political statement, but at the same time, everybody in the room, most people in the room aren't aware of what that means. So I thought it was a brilliant way to kind of hedge both sides of that issue. So we get that scene, which is awesome. Daemon arrives, and again, this is like what the third, fourth time he is somewhere where he's not wanted. But again,
everywhere he goes is that like nobody wants him.
It reminds me of Scar in The Lion King, like before he like makes his moves, like he's the king's brother, so he has this leeway to go wherever he wants and do whatever he wants. But he knows that other people know he's not supposed to be in a lot of the places he is or in what he's doing. And so him showing up, with the smirk, just walking up to the king's table, obviously Viserys like, all right, hey, what's up, dude? Like, hey, we got a seat for you at the end of the table. All right, see ya. Like, dude, he is just amazing that like he had the stones to just show up here anyways.
I love it. I love him.
So
I love to hate him. Just so devious. And it's also the classic Game of Thrones things of like, oh shit, like I totally forgot about his story. I totally forgot that like he was a player in this episode because it's been so long since we saw him.
I was waiting for him to show up. Like I was counting down the minutes. He had to, right? And then the conversation that he has with Rhaenyra, like on the dance floor of like, just continuing to back like part of the reason why last week why he stopped was like just because he cares about like he was started out as one way but he cares about her. So Daemon is like one of the most interesting character studies of like a more like a gray character, and I love it.
Yeah, he is freaking so Bret, just take it over. I've said enough about this character, man. He's so well written. Bret, what do we got?
He toes the line on both sides so well, but I do gotta say, him killing Lady Rhea, that was like just straight up bad. Yeah. So that's interesting. That's the first time we've seen him straight up. Again, that was a creative choice from the showrunners, because then even going back to episode 1 where it's claimed that he said heir for a day. In the book, it's left ambiguous, and in the show, they left it ambiguous. But here, they made a conscious decision to show him making, evil move. So, just interesting to bring that up. Yeah, we get Sir. Is it Gerald or Gerald? Lady Rhea's uncle or cousin or something like that. He just straight up accuses Daemon of murdering his wife. Again, we know that what Daemon said about his wife just traveled around the Seven Kingdoms willy nilly, like the Black Plague, and so obviously his reputation precedes him. So I'm assuming he's not the only Sir Gerald's not the only one who's thinking this, right? Like,
yeah, 100%. Like, I feel like he brought with him like a lot of stuff from that kingdom of like, hey, we all know it was you, motherfucker. Like, nobody's believing that she fell off her horse.
You see her like stature on the horse and everything, and they say multiple times like, oh, like she's a badass, like she's very well equipped and everything. The fact that happened to her is pretty insane. So like if I'm in that family, I have some freaking questions. Like everyone is gonna have some questions.
Well, I feel
unless
like
you're a Targaryen.
When the king was notified, I feel like they all looked at each other like, oh yeah, he just killed her. Like they all knew. I feel like when it was kind of explained. Was it on the ship? No, it was when they got to the kingdom.
With Corlys, and they go and there's like, bummer. The gods, they're evil, and it's just like, oh, we all know.
Every single one of them knows.
Yeah. And then we see Daemon making moves on Laena Valerian. Again, he is just. We brought this up before. We don't know what his exact goal here is or his exact plan. He is just, a volume shooter like Deion Waiters on the Miami. He's just chucking up 15 threes, and, some nights he might hit, 10. Some nights he might only hit 3 or 4. We don't know, but again, he's just chatting her up. I won't spoil what we see in the little preview, but interesting that he is chatting up her. Again, I don't know how young he is compared to Viserys, but maybe a couple years, something like that. And that was such a big deal in episode 2, right? That she was like 12 or something like that.
But it's also been
younger.
like 7 years, so like she is an adult, like to them.
She's
now.
19. Yeah, but I'm assuming Daemon's like 30 something.
Yeah, at least. By today's standards, it's gross, but I feel like by their standards.
I mean, they were ready to hook up Viserys, who's freaking 98 at the end of this episode. Not actually, but like super old by the end of this. And when she was 12, 19 to like 35 is not their biggest issue. Like, it is not the end of the world in their world by any means.
The aunt and niece making out, I have a harder time with, but I digest.
Yeah,
that's a little true. Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, they are related because Laenor and Rhaenyra are cousins. So
that's aunt and niece, or niece and uncle.
No, I was talking about her making out with Daemon.
Oh well, yes, that
was where that was.
Niece.
Yeah,
but so
we forget they're all related. Most of these people are related to each other.
Literally all.
I need to get over it at some point. This is on me now.
Yeah, and it's not like the taboo nature of the Lannisters in Game of Thrones. It's in this time and amongst all these families, it's just more accepted.
The Targaryen family tree is a straight line. We all know this.
Yep. Discovered on this podcast.
Next plot point, this is a big one, is Sir Joffrey. Of course, this guy's name is Joffrey because he is just like a skeezy dude as well. Lawnmouth, again, Lawnmouth, what a name. He even says his nickname is the Knight of Kisses. Yeah. Like, is that, do we think that's, did he give himself that nickname or did really somebody else give him that nickname? One of his like
100% he gave himself that nickname. I'm just, like, the dude's just like smooth talking, he's hanging out with another dude, and then it's like, hey, they call me the Knight of Kisses, and they're just like, okay, I guess we gotta roll with that. Like, I guess this is just out there. Totally gave it to himself. I thought that was the perfect amount of like. For a moment, I was like, "That's cringy as all hell." But then to see his character develop, I'm like, "Oh, you would be the type of dude to like call yourself that." Is more the thing of like people don't call you that. You call yourself that, and that's very funny.
Yeah. And again, this guy's a smart cookie because and obviously like we've seen people long for like I remember seeing friends in high school and college like have a crush on somebody. You can just tell by that look in their eyes. But again, there's like 100 and something people in this room, and he is just like in the back, and he's just like, and he sees Sir Criston Cole in the corner, just like looking at Rhaenyra. Again, great job deducing that, and he is just able to jump the gun from point A to point Z and being like, oh, that's her side piece. Because again, maybe he is a side piece for Laenor, so maybe he knows when he sees one.
Yeah,
and
he knows what to
just,
look for, the yearning in the eye, like he's seen it in himself.
Yeah. And so he's chatting with Sir Criston Cole and just, teasing him and just twisting the knife, metaphorically speaking at this point, on just, hey, like, let's work together. Again, it's not like it's subtly antagonistic, but I don't know. We see what happens later, but
I think that it's I'm sorry. I think that there's just a moment of like, hey man, we're both sort of eating this crap. Like we both have to deal with this, but might as well be on the same team a little bit. Like, haha, we both got to deal with this. It's not cool, but like, we're good. Like I want you to know, so I have another ally. But like, surely enough, Sir Criston was not looking for another ally. He was looking to kill this dude. So, Chance, what do you think about this?
I took it more as like a veiled threat, and I didn't get why they were being so aggressive about it, because that's really what I think like tipped Sir Criston off to like fully just killing this dude. Is like he was kind of threatening Rhaenyra on like, hey, if you spill our beans, we're not the ones that are like going to be in trouble. It's going to be you guys. And so that's like, I just don't get where the antagonistic stuff comes from. Like obviously they don't know the game as well because they immediately showed their hand, when I feel like it would have been wiser to like do that in a different way, because I feel like if they hadn't come off so strong-handedly, like that would have been, none of that violence would have happened personally.
I think I think you nailed it on the fact that if that was in a private room and it's a one-on-one conversation and they already have a good rapport and they're able to discuss this, not at a party where people can overhear that, and it like even the person I'm trying to, not Laenor, it's Corlys' son, the one that Rhaenyra marries. When they're talking, he's like, "Yo, shut up, dude. We're in a party right now. Like,
people
don't
are
just be
hearing.
talking.
Yeah,
don't just be talking, dude." And he's like, we're fine." I'm like, this dude is playing the game horrifically, and when you play the game horrifically, bad things happen to you. And I agree with that.
Yeah. And then cutting to the next scene, Daemon again. So Daemon, staves off a murder accusation. He just totally owns Sir Geralt. And then he chats up Elena Valerian. And then he goes and chats up Rhaenyra again. And he's like, hey, like, we can make this work. It's not over yet. And then I love Rhaenyra just calling his bluff. And he's like, hey, you're a great swordsman. Just cut through the King's Guard straight to Viserys right now. Like, let's get it done. Like, I just love the back and forth between these two characters, because obviously they're familial, so they know each other very well. They've known each other for years, but just Rhaenyra just straight up calling out his bluff immediately and just putting to bed any of this like nonsense. So I thought that was a excellent scene. And y'all have anything to comment on that? Again, they're speaking old Valerian.
Yeah, I really thought I liked Rhaenyra in that scene because she was kind of standing up for herself, like understanding how much he had used her, and like while like so often you see somebody get strung along in a relationship by somebody else and like they're kind of oblivious to like the detriment that's happening to them. And I just like how she like stopped it immediately. Like you can tell that hurt her, like what he had put her through. And so I really liked her snapping back at him and like kind of still showing that she cares about him, but like, dude, you can't just like say this shit and like get me all in a heat about it and then just take, I don't know. I really liked her fire in that scene.
She makes it, I think that like it's definitely like a lofty, he's not going to do it obviously, but like she was like the tension that they had was just up to like 25, and it's a super high stakes scene, and when he grabs her face, I'm like, bro, don't kiss her in front of everyone right now. Like I thought that that's where that could have led, and it was one of those moments that I'm just like, oh, this show just can go any which way, and the fact that the scene cuts where it does because shit hits the fan. It's awesome to see her stand up for herself and actually like shut this dude down in a way, but also she is so good with her words at Daemon, and we see that in the second episode. We see that in the first episode, where when those two are on screen, the dialogue is so well done, and it's on show here 100%. And then we get to fun punchy punch fight scene. So I'm excited about this.
Yeah. Again, Viserys is eyeballing Daemon and Rhaenyra the whole time. Like he already knows something's afoot, and he's just keeping a keen eye on all that. And then it just cuts to initially because I didn't know what to expect here. Obviously, they even say it in the developer commentary at the end, like the weddings in this universe, especially in Game of Thrones and stuff like that, like very on edge. And so the way the cinematography and like the camera shots, like we saw a bunch of like guards come in from the door at first, and I thought like some action was making a power play to like just come in and kill a bunch of people at first. Obviously that was like for 5 seconds and it was over, and I was like, oh, okay, it's just like some sort of scrum. But yeah, we see Sir Criston Cole beating Sir Joffrey Lawnmouth to death. Before we get into that and the implications of that, I'm assuming that Joffrey said more things after that, because I mean, obviously, Criston Cole was like, like you said, like he had that guilt. Even that first conversation we hear, he's egging Criston Cole on, but I feel like something had to been said for him to just straight up start punching the dude to death, right? Like,
so that's why I think why I took like the veiled like threat line of thinking, and like to me, like he's sitting there and he's stewing on the fact that like he just threatened me, he just threatened the queen, he just threatened everything. I don't know this fucker, and like I don't really care if I live or die at this point. Like I see a man on the edge, and he was left to stew in that, watching her do her thing. That's where I was kind of coming from. Like I see where you're coming from, where like he may have said something else, and that's how they like came into contact again, and like when it all broke down, and maybe we'll see something about that in the next episode. But that's kind of where I was taking it, is like this dude is at the edge. This dude just threatened the girl that he still cares about. Like he's had enough, and like this is his breaking point.
Yeah, that's my read on it too. Just the tension was high, and he was ready to lay it all on the line, sort of deal, where he does not give a crap. And I think that the basis though of there is a threat and you threaten the queen, and my job is to take out anyone that threatens the queen. So let's go. And that was that. So what a freaking top 10 most brutal death in Game of Thrones.
Dude,
thus far.
His face looked like nothing I've ever seen before in any Game of Thrones episode or whatever. It
looked realistic.
A moment you do not want to be eating food. I can say, like, I wasn't, thank the Lord, but man, oh man, I was like, man, what if I was having like some lasagna right now? Like that would just fucking suck. Like that would blow so much.
He had lasagna coming out of his fucking forehead.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And then the next scene cuts to Laenor and Rhaenyra getting married. And I want to bring up this interesting point because earlier in the episode, Viserys, when he's making the big speeches and everything at the beginning of the festival, he's like, 7 days of feasting and hunting and tourneys, and then the marriage. And then after the events of the feast that night, he just hustles that marriage straight away. Again, I think, and it's such a like you could easily miss it. Like just another, just so emblematic of that character where he makes like a panic move, and gets them married as fast as possible because who knows what's going to happen next. Why do you think he rushed the marriage 7 days early before any of the tourneying and feasting because of some scrum, some scuffle.
I
I
think
think it's a panic. Sorry, I think it's a panic move, but I think it's a smart move. I think that we need to make sure that this happens because and shit's hitting the fan. Like shit hit the fan tonight. We like Damon's here. I don't want Damon here. No one wants Damon here. Damon's here. Like there's so many moving pieces that just happened in an hour or two at this feast. Let's get that out of the way and let's move on. What do you think, Chance?
I think it was just kind of like a rushed move. I think he was kind of flustered by the whole situation that took place, like with that fight, and kind of like Nick was saying, just like we need to make sure this happens. Like we can't have anything else pop off because 7 days from now, and this is like there's already bloodshed and death at the welcoming ceremony. Like I feel like there's got to be some more subtext to that, but I don't know.
Yeah. Again, we get that beautiful imagery of the rat like feasting on like the pool of blood / some of the remains. Yeah, I thought that was an awesome shot.
Yeah, beautiful shot too, like disturbingly beautiful shot.
What did you guys take away from that? Did you guys take any extra meaning out of that, or
just like it doesn't matter how highborn you are or how haughty you think that you are, like we all have the same fate, right? Like everybody dies. And so like, yeah, I have like a weird perception of rats because of Elden Ring and like the lore that they have in Elden Ring and shit. And so like that's just triggered in me of like, no matter how gaudy you are, like some of the best items that you can get in Elden Ring are found in dead rat or like in rats that you kill in the sewers because everything washes to the bottom eventually. Right. And so like just kind of some of that imagery of like, I don't know. There's also a wedding going on and there's blood on the floor and a rat fucking eating food. Like it's very, I don't know, dark.
I also think that there's the sense of at the end of the day, like Chance nailed it, of it all comes down to the wash, but the rats are going to feast on the blood. Just that idea that people are going to die, but the schemers are the ones that are going to win out over the fighters per se. And here you had the fighter, both of them lost, where Sir Criston Cole also lost that fight in my eyes, because we know where he was heading up. And so who wins out though? The people that are scheming, the people like the winners of this were the people that won the conversations earlier this episode. Alicent, Rhaenyra won her conversation against Sir Criston Cole. Corlys won his conversation. Like those were the people that came out on top of this episode, not the people that went to fisticuffs and had bloodshed. And that's sort of my like deliberation of like power rankings at the end of this episode of who's in the most control. The rats and the people that were having the conversations were winning, and the people that fought lost. And Viserys was fighting for his life. He lost. Like that's where like my delineation of that last shot was. But it's such a beautiful shot. You can take it in so many different ways. Bret, you got any insight on that one?
No, I knew the way it was shot and the rat feasting on blood. I knew there could be some symbolism. I think both of you guys put it in two different ways that elevated my thinking of that scene. So, because I didn't have any presuppositions of what that could mean. But yeah, I thought you guys put it excellently.
I heard Nick's explanation. I was like, ah, shit, that's actually better than what I was thinking.
Dude, it was so good.
Yeah,
dude.
it was really
so
good.
bro.
Oh,
it was
man.
so good.
You guys,
good.
are too kind. You're too kind.
Yeah. Again, we cut to Sir Criston Cole. First of all, again, going back to just this world, like what the hell is going on? Like in episode 1, people were just bludgeoning each other to death, and I'm not sure the protocol and like who's allowed to, like there's some fights where that happens, some fights I'm like, what's the protocol? He just beats someone to death and then walks away.
I feel like nobody had a chance
else
to stop him yet. Like he just like in the panic had like, all right, deuces, guys, I'm jetting.
I also think that he's a big enough dog, basically, like where people you're gonna go up to the protector of the queen at her. Like no, you don't have the say. The only person that can call on like him, basically, to like I would think is the king or the queen to be like, hey, tackle this man right now, and or like get him down. And both of them were just like,
again, Viserys in that moment does nothing. He just witnesses it, and he's like, he's like, but he never is like a real king would just command everybody to just
Shut
stop,
the fuck up.
Yeah.
go sit down, go back to your drinks, all that stuff. He kind of just lets it fester. And to jump back to when Alicent confronts Sir Criston Cole, because he's like, hey, I did it. Please don't gallon me. Please don't torture me. Just kill me. But obviously he's leaving himself up to the mercy of the queen. And she just lets him go. Why do we think she lets him go? Because I think part of that answer ties into this scene here where he's in the Godswood.
I think that's her knowing, like, this is something that I can use, but also, like, in the moment, I think she, like, I don't have an answer for this problem, so it's best to keep him alive in my fate, like, in my, I have him by the balls now. And then when she sees him in the wood, like, I'm very interested to see how that happens, like, in the next episode, if he's her sworn protector or if he's still guarding Rhaenyra, like, if he's been put to, like, what has his fate become? Because I think her kind of saving him and giving him a second life, I think he's going to be, like, super into her. And actually, I was talking to my partner and her sister, and my sister-in-law was saying, like, she thinks that Allison and Sir Cole are going to fall in love, like, because of this whole situation, and that's going to be her eventual, like, fling now that the king is, like, really declining fast.
Interesting.
Yeah. I think that's a brilliant read. I just, she's got him in the back pocket now. Like, she has him in a way that, like, every cent of her fate relies with her, or of his fate relies with her. And it's so almost, like, heartbreaking to see his decline, because he was so, like, the first 3 episodes, you root for him in the sense of, like, he's doing the right things. He's making quips at Daemon. He's a winner. He's noble. And then to see his fall from grace from the end of the 4th episode into there, it's actually, like, I was sad. I was legitimately bummed out for this guy.
Is he this season's Ned Stark? Like, our first season's, like, dude that's just too pure to, like, stick around? Because that's what he's, like, really becoming to me.
Well, he went in. I feel like the end of this episode was killing what he was, in a way, without killing him off. Like, because by the end of this, he is not going to be the same. And hopefully we get the arc on the way back up. We got to see this, like, up, harsh down. And normally in Game of Thrones, the down hits so hard enough that it's death. But hopefully now we can get this rise back up. And I mean, like, it's so beautifully shot. I hate, like, my biggest fear is knives and getting stabbed. So I legitimately had to, like, wait to the end of the episode to see whether, like, he, like, finished it off. And then the second I heard her voice, I went and, like, slowed back to be like, oh, he's not gonna, like, stab himself, like, and it's not gonna be this, like, gruesome, like, oh, I'm not about that. Anyways, so I went and rewatched it, like, back, like, a minute. And went and, like, saw the cinematography behind it, and it's so well shot in between the different cuts and the moonlight, and just so sad. And oh my gosh, I'm so, like, it wasn't like this, like, heroic, like, when Daemon comes out with the crap feed, you're like, yeah, but, like, at the end of this episode, you go and you're just like, yes, I am so happy to see where Alicent and Sir Chris, because now we're rallying the troops, baby. We understand the sides that have been made a little bit and more, and I'm, like I said, fast forward me to next Sunday. Let's get it. Oh my gosh,
I just wish we could binge watch them all. Like, it is so irritating not being able to just watch them all at once.
Yeah.
But also, it allows for a slow burn. Like, it allows for these conversations, and I love these conversations so much.
I say that, and then I wish Stranger Things would go to a weekly release.
Same.
It's like, I like both. Like, I mean, when I started with Game of Thrones, I started with seasons 1 and 2 on DVD.
Yeah, so, like, we could binge the first bit.
I watched season 1 in, like, a few weeks. I watched season 2 a few months later in a few weeks, and then 3 was weekly. But there's something about that weekly conversation that I love, where you watch a show and you binge it. You only talk about the ending. And yeah, that's a whole another different conversation. But yeah, the episode ends with King Viserys falling ill at the shotgun wedding. Again, he throughout this episode he fell ill a couple times. He visibly was hacking, and there's a couple of shots in the episode where he was like sweating profusely, stuff like that. But this one, he just falls flat on his face at the wedding, and everyone rushes to attend to him. Cuts to the rat licking up the blood, and then the episode ends. Yeah, that's amazing. I won't go into what we see in the future, but
we know there's the time jump. We know that we're going, baby.
So that's what we were trying to withhold.
We're good. Let's rip. So if you don't right now, if you guys want to get out and listen to this, get out now. We're going to talk about what we see on the next time, which I didn't watch, and I'm allowing these guys to go and discuss this. I'm legitimately going to go and watch this in like 2 seconds. I'm totally fine. I'm also going to watch the diaries that they do at the end too. I just wanted to make sure I finished it and allowed my friends to go watch football and watch the episode also. So please go ahead.
We got shown so much fucking shit in this next up thing. Like, it is legitimately, I think it has like the most things to pick apart. Like, so I was watching it with who I said I was watching it with, and I kept pausing it and like rewinding it like frame by frame, trying to get like all of the information, because there's just like, it evades me now, all of the stuff, but like we have Daemon with what's his name? Laenor's sister Laena. We have, they're older now. We like all of Rhaenyra's kids, it looks like, don't have the blonde hair, or is it the other way around that it's Allison's kids? Because that's something that I wasn't quite sure about, and that's like
I think it's Rhaenyra's, because we see Aegon and he has like the white blonde flowing mane.
Okay,
and that's Aegon. Yeah.
Okay, because it's interesting. I'm wondering if she's using Sir Criston Cole as a pawn, and he's been sleeping with her, and all of their kids are Sir Cristons,
no!
And she has she's been playing this long game of they don't even have blonde hair. They're not worthy of the throne. Look at our offspring. It's a clear sign from the gods, that ours are supposed to be the Targaryens that pick up the mantle. That's where I think, anyway, that's my theory of where we're going.
This is going to be so sick nasty next week.
The crazy part is I'm not even fucking close to what's going to happen, because they've thought of me thinking that, and they've thought 10 steps ahead.
Yeah. But yeah, I just wanted to just say great job to Millie Alcock and Emily Carey for playing young Rhaenyra and young Alicent Hightower. Obviously, I trust the new actors, and I trust everything else involved. But man, these two killed it.
They just did so good.
Yeah, they did so good, and it's not going to be the same, because it's literally going to be different people portraying these characters at an older time in their life. But man, I just hope nothing feels amiss. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I hope the energy is still there, that and obviously it's a time jump, but that it feels like a natural continuation of these characters and their arcs.
I feel like the fact that we're getting it on episode 5 and not on a season switch gives me a lot more faith, because they know what they're doing with this season. They know what they're doing with this this is what we got this year, sort of this is what we're delivering. And they delivered so strong on the first half that I know we've been done dirty before. Once again, paint my face like a clown. I'm ready to be the fool. But freaking, I have so much faith in this show at this point, and I'm so ready to just dive into the next half of this season, because goddamn, it is. I've always said Game of Thrones is the best show that's ever been on television. Even with its mishaps towards the end, the peaks are so higher than everything else. And the first 5 episodes of this has just been such peak Game of Thrones content, and I absolutely love it and adore it. So
I also was really worried about them matching the cadence, because I've grown. At the beginning of the series, I really wanted the time jump to happen quick, so that way we could get more familiar with them and their older selves. But now, having grown to really appreciate these characters for who they are in their younger versions, I'm really worried about those actors being to uphold that mantle, because we have certain expectations of the way that they talk and interact with the world. And I will say that just based off of Rhaenyra's older self and the way she acted, it felt very like I felt reassured that they had like really nailed it, and that those actors had worked together to make sure that they got the character correctly. But that's my main concern going into this next episode. I don't care what happens to any character, just don't fuck up these two characters that you're having the time jump with, because they're great and you can't do that.
They're the best part of the show.
Yeah.
I said Alicent's the best character and my favorite, I would say, but like freaking Rhaenyra also shoulders so much of this television show, and to go and know that we're going to get that jump, you just do one of these and you do one of these, and then you just sit back and watch the next hour, because most likely it's going to be awesome. And when we talk about it next week, I would be shocked if we start out this being like, I think that they know that they got to hit, and they got to hit right away, and they got to hit hard with reassuring that we're going to get the same feel of these first 5 episodes between those characters. Bret, you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up, this show could potentially go 4 seasons long, this particular story. And if this is the last we see of these younger versions, I mean, they could do flashbacks, but we don't know really too much about what they're gonna do with the story. But this could be potentially it. So this definitely is.
I think that they did such a good job that they could try to write them in. Like I really think that flashbacks, or like even just like we were missing out on years and years of content. I think that certain moments, especially with the time jump that we're about to get, how severe it is, seeing a little bit more of like the person that's playing this Allison, seeing her play the game the way that she has is so brilliant. Seeing those early steps that could have later be part of this time jump, of seeing the how that panned out for her, I think could be in the cards. She did such a good job. They can continue to write her in. But yeah, I get what you're saying, Bret. We're probably not going to see these guys again.
Yeah, and again, I think it's a little up in the air, because I know there's a lot of people online that are like, "Hey, these actors are doing a great job, bring them back," and they have the outline, but it's not like set in stone from start to finish quite yet. But yeah, that was a wonderful discussion of this episode. We light the way. We will be back next Monday morning for you guys for episode 6, The Princess and the Queen. So I'm assuming that's, again, Rhaenyra and Alicent, the two central characters. It's so interesting that the 2 central characters are 2 women in this story.
I
about
love it,
male.
Because it's not hitting me over the head with anything. It's perfectly well written.
No.
Like, anybody that has a problem with the way that this show is going, purely based off of the fact that it's like 2 main women leads, like, go fucking pound salt, you bitch. Like, it is so
Yeah, right?
This is some of the best television we've ever had, and I love that it's 2 women.
Yeah. You think about the best characters in Game of Thrones proper. Powerful women have always been some of them, and now all that like personal favorites are the show is so shouldered on those 2, and those 2 have fucking murdered it. Yeah, if you have an issue with that, go fuck off. Like Jesus Christ, you're just shit. Sorry that Chance got me fired up there. Man.
No,
Like,
it's easy to do.
Come on, like let's get after it. Let's beat those people like freaking Sir Kristen beat the Knight of Kisses. Jeez.
Yeah. We'll give them a smooch on the forehead to insert Kristen's memory when we're done.
So we want you to channel all that energy you got here at the end of the episode. Get the like button, smash that like button, leave a nice comment, constructive feedback if you have it. Share it with.
I want everybody to comment who their favorite dragon is so far, because I'm going to tell you what, Prince Laenor's dragon looking pretty spicy, and also they look like they get bigger.
So tiny.
They look like they get so much bigger though.
They do. Yeah.
And the way his tail's spiked and shit, oh, he looks good.
Do you know the name of the dragon? Because I'm pretty sure I heard this. If correctly,
Sea Smoke.
It's Sea Smoke.
Yeah, that's dope as fuck.
So Badass. Are you kidding me right
Damons
now?
is pretty sick too, but in the comments, let me know what your favorite dragon is we've seen so far. And if it's the Game of Thrones ones, so be it. Whatever.
Yeah, share this with 75 of your closest friends. But yeah, we appreciate you being here, and yeah, we'll see you next week for episode 6.